placed within you. I give you my heart. I see your mind is the mind of the entire universe. The way that you teach me, the way that you guide me with your love sets me free. Oh Lama, care for me, for I am plagued by turbulent emotions. Protect me, and from the center of my heart rise up compassionate Lama, my only refuge.
Sound is on, Fionn?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, welcome everybody. We'll start with our prayers. Okay, a bit better. Refuge, Four Immeasurables, Seven Them, and the Mandala. Sangye Chudan Soki Choknam La Jancho Badu Jakni Dagi Jinso Ki Pe Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Dropar Shog Sangye Chudan Soki Choknam La Jancho Badu Dagni Gyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Ki Pe Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Dropar Shog Sangye Chudan Soki Chognam La Jancho Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Drapar Shog. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness which is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from both attachment and hatred, holding some close and others distant. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of others to the great enlightenment. Sajipuki Jokshing Metok Tramri Rablingji Ni Degen Padi Sangye Jingdu Mikte Uwar Gidro Konamdak Jingla Chopar Shog Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I think we'll recite some Shakyamuni Buddha mantra together since we're in Sakadawa. I think 21. Taya Tao Muni Muni Maha Munaye Soha 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 Tayata Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 So I put a little incense to the side of me, and during the chanting, there was like a fog. And at some point, I nearly lost Lillian in the background. It was very funny. I don't know where all the smoke came from. So good incense karma. So we're still discussing Bodhicitta will be for a few weeks. And I was just thinking how auspicious it is to be talking about Bodhicitta in Sakadawa. We were talking about, I think, how to become inspired. Because generally, when we receive teachings, then you just hear, Bodhicitta is so incredible, it's so wonderful, you should develop Bodhicitta. And, it sort of makes sense from the point of view of why not liberate all sentient beings? So it seems logical, doesn't it? If I'm going to liberate some, why would I not liberate all? But then over time, if you don't have enough merit or enough purification, then bodhicitta could start to seem like a heavy burden that, it's so much. I'm only one, Why is it only me who's going to liberate all sentient beings? So within the text, within the Lamrim, it's not just you should develop bodhicitta, but again, it's going step by step. It's cultivating the mind into bodhicitta so that in the end, your mind says, this is what we must do. The sort of impulse is there, if you like. The training is there that I want to be the Bodhisattva. I want to be the Buddha. I want to liberate all sentient beings. So then we gave many examples, of bodhicitta, first level to the 10th level. What are the examples? What's the feeling of each level of bodhicitta? So that's where we've come from. And we're still talking about the cultivation of bodhicitta, how to cultivate bodhicitta. So now we have 4 circumstances and 4 causes. 4 circumstances and 4 causes. So we want to generate bodhicitta in our minds. And our mind is a continuum. Okay? So in this life, you want to generate bodhicitta. And if you have bodhisattva vows, wishing or engaging, you have planted that, if you like, that seed is on your mental continuum. And then that mental continuum, the word continuum means to continue. So it doesn't just mean for this life, aspirations of bodhicitta. It means it continues into the next life. Which is probably why so many of us are on this path, because we've heard these teachings before, and then we want to continue these teachings, this work that we've done previously. For some reason, we feel that this is very important to us, that this is something we should do. It's not, a parent standing over you and saying, you should be a bodhisattva. It's not society saying, be a bodhisattva, or in many cases, they might say, don't be a bodhisattva. You're crazy to be a bodhisattva. What makes you think you can liberate all sentient beings? So, society is one thing, and Dharma and having Dharma imprints is another. So often Dharma and samsara, the society of samsara, they're usually opposite, right? So if you go out to a bar, and say, hi, I want to liberate you all from samsara, they say, I'll leave us alone. We're fine. So that's why, often these practices are said to be kept secret, not something you go out advertising to everybody, because they may not agree with you and you may have an argument about it, and that's not what you want to do. So it's something that you put in your heart. It's something that you believe in, but not necessarily what everybody believes in, because obviously if everybody believed in it, then the whole world would be Dharma, and we know it's not. So we have to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering, no matter how their suffering manifests. So the suffering may manifest in many, many different forms. And as I've said before, there are many stories within the Lamrim where you're trying to be good to somebody, you want to help somebody, and virtually they're slapping you in the face and saying, why would I accept help from you? So if you're not very firm in your bodhicitta, then at that point you say, okay, I give up. I've tried my best. I've tried for 3 weeks to liberate all sentient beings, and now I give up because sentient beings don't appreciate it. So it could be like that. It could be 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. But at some point you could give up, because we're dependent on others to give us feedback as to how well our bodhicitta is affecting them. You understand? So if we're basing our bodhicitta on the 8 worldly dharmas, praise and blame, basically, you want praise, I'm going to help you with bodhicitta. And then the other person says, oh, wow, thank you so much. You're so wonderful. Then you think, oh, wow, yes, bodhicitta's right. It's the good thing to do. But if you say to somebody, I'm going to help you with bodhicitta, and they say, you can keep your bodhicitta, then you think, oh, I feel insulted, I feel hurt. So we don't defend Buddha, we don't defend bodhicitta, we don't defend the teachings. People can think what they want. We have to make up our minds what we decide, what we want. So that's why we're slowly going through bodhicitta and why and how and which way, so that you can make a wise decision, and a decision that once you've made it, you won't change, you won't give up. You won't give up on your bodhicitta. So now we're discussing 4 circumstances. So the first one is directly seeing the inconceivable power and qualities of a Buddha. Inconceivable power and qualities, or hearing about them. So, nowadays, of course, we don't see Buddhas, like I said last week, with the Sangha and Maitreya, unless you're going to sit in a cave for 12 years and do intense purification. Even then, you may not see a Buddha. So where does that leave us? We need to hear about the Buddha or Buddhas, because there's not just one, through a reliable source. So we have past realized beings and present realized beings. When we hear about, I think for me, the situation of Siddhartha before he became a Buddha, the 500 lifetimes before, which is contained in the Jataka tales, this is very inspiring. That he was an animal, he was a tortoise, and he was an elephant, and he was many different manifestations. And in each life, he practiced bodhicitta. So that shows you don't have to be human to manifest compassion towards others. So, if you want to know about Siddhartha previous to Siddhartha, the 500 lifetimes that Shakyamuni Buddha talked about, he said himself, I can remember these 500 lifetimes. So he taught, this is what I did, and this is how I improved my qualities, and this is how I became enlightened. So again, maybe this gives you some feeling of enthusiasm. That's one way. Jataka tales. There's a book called 84 Mahasiddhas, which is, I think, within the Gelugpa tradition. I think reading biographies of these great beings can really help. There's one that I have read 2 or 3 times now, and it's called The Crooked Cucumber. Crooked Cucumber. And it's Suzuki. There were 2 Suzukis. So one was Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, not that one. This other one is the one that was in San Francisco and then started a hospice and had Tassajara and many things. So anyway, in Japan, they were looking for somebody to go to America. And he said, I can go. And they said, oh, we're sending the Crooked Cucumber. And he became very famous and, sort of very well known within the Zen tradition. So I think it really helps to read these stories about these great masters and the difficulties they went through and how they manifested their bodhicitta. These are living examples of the Dharma. So being amazed and inspired by the qualities and various manifestations of Buddhas, you generate an aspiration to have similar qualities yourself. You need that inspiration. You need that feeling. This is how I want to be. I remember reading about Yeshe Sogyo, Padmasambhava's consort, who had amazing powers, but she also went through terrible times. She went through awful things. but also transformed it into the Dharma. So if you're going through very difficult times, even you're in the Dharma, but you're still going through terrible times, reading about these people, people like Milarepa, Yeshe Sogyal, it wasn't that they stepped onto the Dharma path and like whoosh, they became Buddhas in the easiest possible way. They had to purify eons of negative karma. And how do you do that? It's usually through a lot of pain and suffering. And that's why we have to be tenacious. We have to hang on to the path and not give up and not let go of the path, because this purification that we go through can be so intense that it seems worse than samsara. And so you give up. Well, if the purification is worse than samsara, then I might as well go back to samsara, right? You have to see the goal. Bodhisattva, Buddha. Samsara is just here, it's just now, Bodhicitta, Bodhisattva, much longer term. Buddha, much longer term. So we're looking longer term, not short term. So how do you keep on the path? You need to read these biographies and get inspiration and have that feeling, these are the qualities I want to have. And knowing that bodhicitta is the only way to attain the qualities of enlightenment. You generate the bodhicitta wish to attain enlightenment to benefit all living beings. So that's the thing, isn't it? If you investigate, how am I going to become a Buddha? In which way will I become a Buddha? The only way is bodhicitta. There is no other way. So you can look, from various aspects. Maybe just wisdom, but that won't give you enlightenment. Maybe just compassion, that won't give you enlightenment. Loving kindness, that won't give you enlightenment. So you can look at various aspects, but the only way to get to enlightenment is bodhicitta. But do you want to get to enlightenment? In order to answer that question, you need to investigate, what is a Buddha? I remember years ago, people on courses used to say to me, they thought to be a Buddha must be very boring. Why? Oh, because everything must seem very grey. Like taking Prozac, because no ups, no downs. We're so used to the ups and the downs. In Australia, we have the Young and the Restless and Neighbours and programs like this, and it's all up and down, up and down. They're in love, they hate each other. Got a job, lost a job. And that's life, isn't it? That's samsara, up and down, up and down. These emotional highs, emotional lows. So people used to tell me, oh, I think being a Buddha would be so boring. This equanimity, That's another thing you have to think about. Because if you don't think about it, then it's an obstacle to enlightenment. Because you're thinking, gosh, I don't want to be a Buddha if it's going to be like being on Prozac. If there's no feeling, no joy. So of course Buddhas have joy. Of course, they look at you practicing and they think, wow, incredible. Look at that person in wherever, whichever country. Wow, practicing when it's difficult. Having bodhicitta when it's difficult. Of course they shower down the blessings on you. And sometimes you feel it because you open yourself up to those blessings. But if you don't have that connection with the Buddhas, with Tara, Manjushri, Chinrezig, Shakyamuni Buddha, if you don't have that connection, then you're not going to get those blessings. They want to offer you the blessings, the positive energy, but you're not receiving it because you're not open to it. There could be that sense of fear. Ooh, to be Buddha would be so boring, so grey, but not at all. But it's no use that anybody saying to you, not at all. You have to work it out for yourself. You have to go into the resistances that you find within yourself and then work with that resistance. Sit with the resistance, allow the resistance, give the resistance space, and then see what happens. Okay, so the second one. The second circumstance is where not able to directly perceive a manifestation of a Buddha, you nonetheless receive teachings on the qualities of Buddhahood from a spiritual guide. By hearing this, faith is developed and the aspiration to attain enlightenment is generated. So the first one would be more if you were seeing Buddhas yourself, but that's pretty difficult because ordinary people perceive bodhisattvas, bodhisattvas perceive Buddhas. So this one is where you're hearing stories about Buddhas, and then faith is being generated. I think in this case, the person that you're listening to, you have to sort of feel that, well, they believe it, and I believe in them. So it's not without problems, is it? That one's not easy. To believe in somebody who's telling you about a Buddha, it's not easy. So that's why I say maybe start out with the biographies. And there's many documentaries now. The old lamas of Tibet, very amazing. Most of them having gone. Many of them have come back, reincarnated. But, the older ones, when I first came into Buddhism, they were all still around. So you'd go down to Bodh Gaya and you'd see these elderly lamas sitting at the stupa doing pujas. And people like Lama Lundrup, Geshe Lama Kuntrog, amazing lamas. So, for me to believe that there was something special in the Dharma because they were following the Dharma, and that was the Dharma that made them, gave them something special. It wasn't hard to believe because you met them. When I went to Tibet with Geshe Lama Kuntrog, he had walked out of Tibet and he remembered every single hill he knew. There was 108 stupas, there was a nunnery over there and a monastery over there. Because when we were on the bus going towards Shigatse, he was crying. The whole way he was crying. And I said, Geshe, the funny thing was, I didn't speak much Tibetan and he spoke no English, but we could talk. Geshe, why are you crying? And he said, 108 stupas, nunnery, monastery, but you didn't see anything. You just saw hills. It was just completely gone. Such a memory. So, we need that sort of living example, if you like. But also, I think to read in the books, people like Milarepa, what they went through, extreme difficulties that they went through in order to purify, but also to become enlightened. The third circumstance, you don't hear the Mahayana Dharma. Well, this hasn't happened to you, but anyway, You don't hear the Mahayana Dharma, but bodhicitta is developed by thinking that the Mahayana teachings are degenerating or will soon degenerate unless they're practiced. Being unable to bear the thought of this, it arouses you to think, I must generate bodhicitta and practice it, otherwise the Mahayana teachings will decline. So there are people like this. I've met people who have never heard about bodhicitta, never heard Buddhist teachings before, and they come to a course and they say, I must do this. I must practice bodhicitta. Just, this is their decision. So I think that seed, the imprint on the continuum from previous lifetimes, it ripens in the circumstance, in the place where they come in contact with the Dharma. Then the fourth circumstance, the fourth one, is where, without the thought that the Mahayana is degenerating, you nonetheless see that this is an age of destruction. Strong ignorance, shamelessness, miserliness, rampant delusion, and so forth. So this is called Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga. There's a similar prediction within Hinduism, and in Buddhism it says that because of extreme greed and miserliness and etc., I think I've talked about this before, that there will be environmental degradation, and this will cause new diseases, and so the lifespan will get shorter and shorter and shorter, and then at that time when the lifespan is the shortest and the maximum number of diseases and environmental degradation, so the water, the forests, the air, everything is polluted, at that time Maitreya will appear and will give teachings, and then things start to improve. So here, the fourth circumstance is you seeing that this is Kali Yuga, this is the age of destruction. So it's destruction of the environment, but also destruction of values, you can say, destruction of even the Dharma. So in such a time, it's difficult to gain the aspiration of a hearer or solitary realizer. These are the Theravadan practitioners. Even more difficult to take on the path to enlightenment. So by seeing the rarity and the preciousness of the mind aspiring to gain enlightenment, you develop the thought, if in these difficult times I'm able to generate the aspiration for enlightenment, then others will be inspired to follow. Therefore, I will practice bodhicitta. So it's this mind seeing Kali Yuga happening, seeing the degeneration of the planet, seeing the changes that are going on, and being up against it, difficult to even be a Theravadan practitioner, here a solitary realizer, even difficult to do that. But this mind says to itself, I see that this is so rare and so precious that I'm going to aspire to gain enlightenment. So that mind acknowledges the difficulties, but says it aspires to enlightenment because others will then be inspired to follow. And therefore they're going to practice bodhicitta. But again, a very difficult situation, because everything will be against you. You've got this samsaric degradation against you, but that mind because of the imprints of the past, comes up and says, the only thing I can do is practice bodhicitta. So virtually it's Kali Yuga that's provoking the bodhicitta. It becomes a circumstance for bodhicitta to arise. Okay, now 4 causes. 4 causes. So we've had 4 circumstances, now 4 causes. The first one is suitable lineage. Suitable lineage. Having a Mahayana lineage. So you would have had to have heard the Mahayana teachings. You have the Mahayana lineage. You're born as a human with leisure and fortune. And you've met the Mahayana teachings, and then you can think, I've received a precious human rebirth of leisure and fortune, of leisure and fortune. I have come in contact with the Mahayana lineage. I therefore have the great opportunity to attain enlightenment. And for that reason, I will practice bodhicitta. So this relates to the Lamrim, in the beginning of the Lamrim, when we talk about precious human rebirth and the endowments and the qualities. So we meditated on that to come to a realization that we have something very precious, very special, very rare. That rarity has then met with something else very rare, the Mahayana lineage. So that coming together, the rarity of the precious human rebirth, the rarity of the Mahayana lineage, produces an effect, which is that thought, I must attain enlightenment, and I must practice bodhicitta in order to get to enlightenment, to gain enlightenment. You understand? The second one, you need to be accepted by a spiritual guide. Accepted by a spiritual guide. So you need a Mahayana spiritual teacher. When you have a guru, you can think, I have a holy spiritual teacher, and I'm able to receive perfect teachings from him or her. With such an opportunity, I must listen to the teachings on bodhicitta and thought transformation, and then constantly practice bodhicitta. When I was in Australia, living in Sydney, then I had to go down to Melbourne by train. And then I decided I needed a book because it was a long train journey, sort of like an Indian, I think like an Indian train journey. Not so far, but long time. So I decided to buy a book, and it was Out on a Limb by Shelley MacLaine. So I bought this book and I read it on the train. And when I got back to Sydney, it had such an effect on me because it was a sort of spiritual quest. She was going through a spiritual quest. And I think that was the one where she went to Peru and had different experiences. So I wrote to her and I said, thank you so much for writing this book. And it had a profound effect on me. And then she wrote back. Within 3 months, I got a letter back, and she said, when you're ready, a guru will appear. thought, what a load of rubbish. So Californian. When you're ready, a guru will appear. You know, this is in Sydney. Where am I going to find a guru in Sydney? Little did I know there were Buddhist centers all over Sydney. But, you know, that's what she said. And it kept playing on my mind because immediately I rejected it and thought, what a load of rubbish, you know. And anyway, who wants a guru? And just the word guru, you know, no, thank you. So it took me a while. I was thinking about it. When you're ready, a guru will appear. Sure enough, I think it was before the end of that year, there I was in Nepal, in the monastery. So they say, you know, when the guru's ready, it's like a hook and they're pulling you, not for their benefit, but for your benefit, so that you can receive Dharma teachings. So you need to listen to the teachings on bodhicitta and thought transformation, because once you've made that decision to be a bodhisattva, to train in bodhicitta, things are going to get difficult. I used to say, and I hope it's okay to say, that you can think of your situation like this. Samsaric situation. You have a fan sitting in front of you, but you don't need it because it's not that hot. And you keep throwing, I'm going to use the S word now, so if you're very sensitive, close your ears. You keep throwing shit on the fan. And you're throwing it and throwing it. And this is samsara. All these negative thoughts and negative actions, you keep throwing it on the fan. And then one day it gets really hot. And you reach over and you switch on the fan. And it goes, poof. And you think, why me? It's not fair. And you forget it was you who accumulated all that caca that came back at you. That's why you need thought transformation. Because when it comes back, instead of giving up and thinking Dharma doesn't work, then you have to think how to transform the negative into the positive. So, number 2, accepted by a spiritual guide, it's to get the Mahayana lineages, to receive the Lojong teachings, the thought transformation teachings, to hear about the Dharma. Because if you don't receive the lineages, it's not as powerful. Number 3 is compassion for living beings. Compassion for living beings. So the third cause is having great compassion. The mind of great compassion wishes all living beings equally to be free from suffering without any bias. As this is the basic cause of bodhicitta, you will determine to strongly practice bodhicitta. So remember, a while ago I gave you this meditation on equanimity. Friend, enemy, stranger. And you look at the 3, and there's the friend looking at you smiling. Oh, I love you. We're friends. Of course you want to liberate that one. Then the enemy looking at you with those narrow eyes. As soon as you think about them, as soon as they think about you, the hair on the body comes up and you feel flushed. You don't want to liberate that one. And the neutral one, well, you know, how can I generate any feeling because I don't know you? So 1 out of 3 you want to liberate. Only 1 out of 3. So the small number, the ones you get along with. The majority, the neutral, and the enemies, the ones you don't like, the karmic appearance you don't like, those you're not liberating. So that's why I gave that meditation on equanimity, we have to work on our great compassion, the basic cause of bodhicitta. Number 4, undaunted by hardship. Undaunted by hardship. Never give up. Having patience and joyous effort. You know, the 3rd and the 4th of the perfections. Patience and joyous effort. Having strong perseverance. You're able to take on and overcome any hardships in practicing the path to the goal of enlightenment. You are going to work continuously to benefit living beings. So if you don't have that aspiration, if you don't have that determination, then easily your mind can fall down to solitary realizer, hearer, where you think this Mahayana path is too difficult. Then I'm going to become solitary realizer, just for myself. I'm going to liberate just myself. And I stop worrying about every other people, every other person, every other living being. So we need the aspiration to liberate all sentient beings by myself alone. We need that aspiration at the beginning, we need it in the middle, and we need it at the end. Whether that's within one action, whether it's within one day, whether it's within one lifetime, you need that. I am going to liberate all sentient beings by myself alone, which means if somebody doesn't praise you for doing it, you still do it. Next week, we're going to do Mahayana Precepts, isn't it, on Wednesday. And I said to Zeman, we can do a special time for Hong Kong because I'm taking precepts. I think it was 5:30, 5:45 or something. And she said, no, why? And I said, because people would have to get up in the middle of the night. She said, that's okay. They can do it. It's unusual to have a student like that who immediately says they can do it. Because these days, people want to find the easy way to the Dharma, you know, the easy way to enlightenment. There is no easy way. Eating marshmallows and chocolate on the way to enlightenment, you know, if there was, we would all be doing it. So, you know, we have to make the determination that no matter when the path gets difficult, we're going to use Lojong thought transformation to transform any negativity into the path to enlightenment. How are we doing for time? Okay, so I've got 4 powers. So we can finish those today. 4 powers. And then maybe next week, we can start on the actual 6 causes and 1 effect. And then Tonglen. So the 4 powers. The first power is the power of self. The power of self. The power of self is seeking enlightenment by your own power. Gosh. You're taking on this whole responsibility for all sentient beings. You're going to free all sentient beings from their suffering. And you have self-reliance, and you have confidence, and you're fully prepared to do whatever's necessary in order to benefit all living beings. So that's the antidote to the attitude of somebody else will do it. I can think, oh, I'm a bit tired today. All sentient beings, oh, it's too much. Why doesn't Lillian do it? She hasn't got much going on in her life. She can do it. And then she's sitting over there thinking, he hasn't got much going on in his life. Why doesn't he do it? So then nothing gets done, isn't it? Because everybody's looking at everybody else, thinking, but only thinking, projecting that thought out, but not actually saying it. Oh, you should do it. Or you're more capable than I am, so you should do it, right? And this is something to do with self-confidence and self-esteem. If you've got low self-esteem, then it's that thing of, oh, my teacher will do it, or my guru will do it, or the Sangha will do it, but not me. We have to overcome that low self-esteem, low self-confidence. I am going to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, not you should gain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, and I'm sort of coming in the background. Or, will somebody else help me? It's like you're driving your car and one wheel gets broken. And so you stop the car and you think, I can fix this wheel, or somebody else will have to fix it. Or the engine, the engine, something happens to the engine, it's a spark plug, something easy that you could fix, but you think, oh, somebody else will have to do it. So easily we can give up on these actions, things that we could possibly do, but we don't quite have that confidence. So start small, the ants, the bugs, whatever, picking them up, putting them outside. Start small, but build up this feeling of the power of self, that I'm going to liberate them, I'm going to help them. You need Vajra confidence and self-reliance. Be prepared to commit and take responsibility for yourself and others by attaining enlightenment without depending on the help and support of others. It's an important attitude. You need to empower yourself to engage in bodhicitta. Number 2, the power of others. The power of others. Seeking enlightenment through the power of others. Relying on others to gain the proper knowledge of exactly what bodhicitta is and how to cultivate it. So if you don't know, then you need to seek out a teacher. And I'm not saying I have actualized bodhicitta, but I've heard a lot of teachings on bodhicitta, and we have the texts. So I think the fortunate thing at this present time, because of COVID, is that we're actually able to study and meditate deeply on these subjects, whereas before we would never have done this. In the 35 years that I've been around, very rare to receive teachings on all of these sort of the smaller subjects that fill in the bigger subjects. Usually you just get the big subject, like I said, bodhicitta. But what we're talking about, the circumstances, the conditions, the powers, this is sort of giving you a lot of information which will support you when you're developing bodhicitta. The third one is the power of the cause. The power of the cause. So you have accumulated suitable causes for bodhicitta in a previous life. When a person has created strong karmic causes by having practiced the bodhicitta trainings in a previous life, and then they meet suitable external circumstances, which triggers the latency during the present life, then bodhicitta arises effortlessly. So like I said, some young people, or not so young, hear just sometimes the word bodhicitta, and it triggers something, and they feel, this is something I really want to study, something I must actualize. It's said that people with these strong imprints, just by hearing or reading, they can gain realization of the Dharma, of bodhicitta. Just like that. So it's not that just like that it happens, but there's no cause. We can't see the cause, but the cause is previous lifetimes where they have imprints of bodhicitta, and then in this life, they open a book and they read bodhicitta, blah, 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 and they, wow, they have this realization. Or they hear teachings on bodhicitta, they gain realization. As soon as the conditions suitable for ripening this latency are met, the realization of bodhicitta arises effortlessly. The power of the cause. So don't think it just happens. It's happening because of a cause. The fourth one is the power of preparation. The power of preparation. This is generating bodhicitta from having made the necessary preparations. So there's 7-step method, 6 causes and 1 effect. There's lojong. There's various methods which leads you to the realization of bodhicitta. So the example is given that, say, in a previous life, you have studied the 6 steps leading to the culmination of bodhicitta. So this life, even if you're born in a country where there's no teaching of the Dharma, when you meet with the appropriate conditions, such as you see suffering of living beings, the resultant bodhicitta arises. But you would have had teachings in a previous life on the 6 steps. So seeing all beings as your mother, how kind the mothers are, wanting to repay their kindness. So you've got those 6 steps, which results in bodhicitta. But you don't have bodhicitta. So in this life, you see suffering, and then bodhicitta arises because of those 6 steps. So this is preparation. There are many other examples of where the preparations made in another life ripen during the present life. And without knowing karma, it would seem that these things arise spontaneously without a cause. But actually, the causes have been generated in a previous existence. It's like that lady in Seattle who was completely new, turned up again Lamrim's 1-year retreat and attained the 5th level concentration. You think, where does that come from? How did she do that? Why didn't anybody else do that? Okay, how are we for time? I think we'll stop there. I think there's not much else to say about that. We all know about karma because we studied karma in depth, didn't we? But maybe somebody has a question, a burning, deep and meaningful question. So if there is somebody, they can ask.
Hello.
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 Thank you, teacher.
Who could that be?
C'est moi.
Uh-huh.
I think my mind makes me very busy.
Goodbye. Delete.
Yeah, delete the mind.
Yes.
It seems that I'm sometimes the questions just loop. What you just say, we liberate our other sentient beings out of bodhicitta, and we practice bodhicitta for others.
Yes.
I had the feeling that there is no others. If it, I mean, in the ultimate sense, so I cannot.
You think there's no people to liberate?
I know there are many levels. So
You don't see anybody.
I see a lot of people, and I find it very overwhelming for me.
Right. Which may be why you don't want to acknowledge that they exist.
No, I acknowledge they exist, but I'm so.
Tell me they don't exist.
In the ultimate sense.
No, conventional sense.
Okay. Back to my question. Okay. Sometimes I think I'm improving. Sometimes I think I'm back to square one. I'm not getting it. And not getting it.
It's because you jump too quickly to the ultimate truth. You have to stay at the samsaric level. You know, human beings, spiders, ants. You know, there's often people on courses who they have a spider in the room and they're terrified of the spider, but they don't want to do anything to the spider because they respect the spider should live. But then they see the fly getting caught in the spider's web, and then they want to liberate the spider, the fly from the spider's web. But then they think, but what about the spider? The spider also has to eat, right? So actually, samsara, once you start to investigate, is very complicated. When you talk about human beings becoming vegan, vegetarian, then it's very idealistic. But in many cases, it actually causes more environmental problems than somebody eating meat. So we can be egotistical about being vegan, vegetarian, but when you go into the suffering that you cause, then you'll see that it's not without creating suffering. Everything in samsara is a creation of suffering. Okay? So if you stay at that level, it's a conventional level, then you can put a label on things because they function. You know, there's male human being, female human being, animals, cows, dogs, whatever. It's a convention. It's a label that can be put on a basis. So then bodhicitta can arise, great compassion can arise in relation to their suffering. But if you go very quickly to the emptiness of them, then you sort of bypass the feeling that arises that they must be liberated. So the compassion has to arise, the bodhicitta has to arise, and then the emptiness is part of that. But if you just go to emptiness, you're negating the suffering. Then the compassion is not easy to arise. You understand? She's gone.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the practice. Like I'm not oblivious. Actually, I think I'm very sensitive. It's like it's very overwhelming for me, and very 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 overwhelming. You know, I'm too sensitive. Even watching a soap on TV or a movie, that I will be very very sensitive.
Right.
So,
and I think that's why you want to go to emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes away the suffering.
But I'm not going there to hibernate. I try to because there's a way to keep me not cutting off from practice totally, ironically.
Okay.
So, and if and at the end of the day, I find it really a lot of persistence, because with the practice, sometimes we face a situation and which is somebody the others, which I acknowledge their existence, they or just simply put an enemy, okay, enemy, or people who pushes your button because of the Buddhist practice. Literally, we know immediately that, wow, this is Mara, this is the time to practice. Yeah. Wow, it feels like dying, teacher. It feels like dying. On one hand, the pull, the samsaric pull is so strong. You want to react, you want to be safe, you want to attack, you want to be aggressive. Yeah. On the other hand, the practice, wow, it's like really in a hot, spicy soup. You're like cooking yourself. You feel like crying, dying, like combusting. Is it normal? But unfortunately, I'll just chant everything I know. So minimizing the reactivity to as much as I can, which fortunately, maybe of the past experience, I sometimes I maybe I should like pull back a little bit. But when I ask people who are also there, I'm very glad. And somebody told me, oh no, I didn't feel. I felt, I feel a bit bad about how I reacted. And this guy said, oh no, really, you were quite graceful. Really? Oh, I was like boiling with emotions and unfriendliness. Yeah. So wow. And then I think, wow, this is really tough. And even I have you say I'm not getting it. You said I'm not getting it, but at least I have I'm tagging along with Buddhism and being a not very mature Buddhist maybe. But people, yeah, that's my bodhicitta. Where my bodhicitta arises is, wow, well, how about people who doesn't have the practice? That must be hellish, and that must be creating more reactivity and karma. But teacher, this is really not easy, you know.
I know, but this is also not the Oprah show.
Okay, I like Oprah, not as much, but I mean,
Me too. I modeled myself on Oprah. I tried to get her hairstyle, but it didn't work.
Because you don't have a dog. You need some poodles.
Oh, I've got a dog.
Oh, you got it! You got it!
I have a dog.
Really?
Yeah.
Adopted?
Yeah. Huh?
You adopted?
Adopted?
Yeah, like rescue dogs.
I didn't give birth to it, if that's what you're thinking.
I mean, you get it from the shelter, or you pay for it.
A Buddhist lady,
Uh-huh. What kind? What breed is it?
Tibetan.
Not Irish.
No, Tibetan, spaniel.
Oh wow.
Very
Wow.
cheeky, very difficult. So now I have
Wow.
2 children.
They could be quite a bit arrogant, Cocker Spaniel, right?
Tibetan spaniel, not cocker
Tibetan-
spaniel.
Oh, teacher, I thank you for telling me, because in my visualization of your new home, you have a pup. Okay, thank you.
I have a pup. She's 3 months old,
Wow.
and her name is Tashi,
Pashi, meaning
meaning good luck.
wow. Good
And
to
there were
hear.
so many Buddhist names, I was going to call her, and then I like Tashi. Just
It sounds like a model name,
something
fashion model name.
simple. It was either Tashi or Oprah. And I didn't want to be standing on the balcony shouting out, Oprah. Oprah, where are you? So she's Tashi.
This made my day. Thank you, teacher.
So I bought her, I think it was in Kmart, a halter, which is a bumblebee halter with wings on the back. It's black and yellow, and it's got wings on the back, right? So today I had to go to the chemist, and so I had the dog with me. First time I was taking her out, and she had this bumblebee halter on her. And then the lady said to me, "Oh, that's so cute." And she said, "My dog won't wear anything like this." And I said, "Oh, my dog, she doesn't mind." But what I did was I tied her to the back of the car, and then I drove fast, and then it lifted her up in the air as if she was hang gliding.
You wouldn't do that. Yeah. Good to know. Good to know. Okay.
No.
This made my day.
The exciting things happening in Australia.
Yeah, you should change your profile picture to
Mm.
Tashi, not you
Just
anymore.
Tashi instead of me. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
instead of you. That would be more attractive to newcomers.
Thank you very much. Nice to have spoken to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Delete.
Thank
Anybody else with a serious question?
Hello, teacher.
Yeah.
This is Freenet here. I got a question because you just mentioned that you don't have to be human to manifest bodhicitta to others.
Yes.
So my question is, because it sounds to me is like a vicious cycle. It's like, because if like one is an animal, for example, like an animal is so stuck with ignorance.
Yes.
So if like being stuck in ignorance, then he or the animal doesn't have the wisdom to accumulate merits. And
Yes.
so like, yeah, if without the merits, then you can't get rid of the ignorance. So my question is, where is the starting point? So it is like everything that like, it is all just by chance or by luck that we start accumulating this merits, like the fly that you mentioned, the fly like fly around the stupor 3 times, and then like then it get the merits and yeah, something like that. So I'm just wondering whether everything is just a matter of luck or chance that brings us to where we are today, because like by luck then we got to accumulate the merits, and then bits by bits, life by life, then it brings us to here we are today. So
well,
that's
something. After what I've just heard, I think I won't be teaching next week. I'm just going to put Tashi in front of you all, and Tashi can carry on after the insults I just received. I've put Tashi as my Facebook page. Just joking. But if you think about a dog, Dogs can make people very happy. Just, you know, those loving eyes that look at you as if to say, you're the most wonderful person in the world, I love you, whatever. So dogs can make people feel very happy. I've heard this from many, many students over the years. Same with cats, same with birds, you know, whichever pet that you're interested in. But I think good to read the Jataka tales, because within the Jataka tales, then you will see the Bodhisattva behaving with Bodhicitta, even though he was an animal. And then this gives you more respect. Instead of just looking at the animals as ignorant and suffering, then you can see in some of the animals the appearance of what looks like Bodhicitta. So it's perfectly possible for the Bodhisattva to manifest as a dog, a cat, a bird, a worm. You know, I remember once somebody asked about Buddha's manifesting, and Lama Lundrup said, if you need to teach a dog, you need to be a dog to teach a dog. So the Buddha manifests as a dog to teach a dog, or manifests as a bird to teach a bird. This is the bodhicitta. This is the great compassion of the Buddha to manifest in a form that will be of benefit to the other being. So you can't look at any being and say they're not a Buddha. How do you know they're not a Buddha? That's why it's said it's much better to look at every being as if they are a Buddha. So that's one practice. And then the other practice for renunciation is seeing all beings as suffering, and then you need to liberate them. So you have to decide which practice is good for you, which time. You know, if you start to get arrogant and proud about what you're doing, you need to start thinking every sentient being is a Buddha, except me. Or if you're not generating enough bodhicitta, all sentient beings are suffering, I need to liberate them very quickly. So there's various practices which work on various minds at various times. Yeah? For you, I would read Jataka tales and read about the incredible lifetimes of the Bodhisattva in various animal bodies and the amazing deeds that he performed. That maybe gives you more appreciation of animals, how they're not all ignorant. Some can be bodhisattvas, some can be Buddhas.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Okay, I think we'll dedicate. So we dedicate for the benefit of all sentient beings. And just to mention, as I said, we'll be doing precepts next Wednesday, because one of the students was saying to me she was going to take precepts for the first time and didn't have the lineage. So then I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll take precepts and I'll give you the lineage. And so then it turned into Europe, we're doing it one time, and then Hong Kong and Australia, we're doing it another time. So if you would like to join and you haven't done precepts before, or you've done them and you would like to be part of a group, then please do join and make next Wednesday, the full moon, a powerful day for you. Gewa di nyo du dag lama sangye drop yone drowa chikyang malupa dei sala go parshog Janjo Sencho Rinpoche, Mage Panam Kegyoche, Kepan Yampa Mepayang, Gone Gomdu Balbar Shog. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losang's teachings, dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds, always increase.
Wisdom, light of true compassion, source of Tara's love maternal, Losang's doctrine perfect holder, we request your life eternal. Teacher, father, mother, guru, we entreat you live forever, guiding all to liberation, perfecting our minds forever, with your always skillful guidance and profound compassionate ways, shining Tara's light eternal, guiding to her Tathagata mind. Om Guru Vajradhara Samadhi Vijaya Sarvasiddhi Hum. Om Tari Chitari Chure Guru Samadhi Vijaya Ayu Punye Janana Pushtim Kuraye Soha.
Thank you all very much, and see some of you on Wednesday, bright and early. Have a good week, and Tashi Delay.
Tashi Delay, Venerable Namgyel.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you, teacher.